This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with high-end companion and coach, Leijla Foss. I'd like to invite you to check out one of our projects that we're very proud of, thewaronporn.com. You'll find articles on age verification laws and more on the industry's plight in the war on porn and the numerous attacks on us. Go to thewaronporn.com and check it out. Adult Site Broker has launched a new website at adultsitebroker.com. The attractive new site is easier to navigate and now includes this podcast inside of it. Check it out at adultsitebroker.com. Finally, just a reminder, we're always looking for buyers and sellers of adult sites. Perhaps you've been thinking about either selling your site or buying one. Always feel free to contact me at adultsitebroker.com with any questions you may have. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer a unique platform that bridges the gap between mainstream social link services like Linktree and adult content creators on platforms like OnlyFans. Their innovative approach combines a bio link with the ability to sell virtual gifts. They feature an impressive user base with a traffic volume of 250 to 300,000 visitors monthly. The site is also clean and solidly coded, ensuring a smooth user experience. Maybe best of all, the site offers completely passive income. It operates with zero active management required. Plus, there's still high growth potential. With its unique positioning and strong organic traction, the site is primed for explosive growth. OnlyFans is exploding, and this capitalizes on that trend with an existing platform, user base, and traffic. Only $950,000. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is high-end companion, Leijla Foss. Leijla, thanks for being with us on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk with you.
It's a pleasure. Leijla is a high-end companion based in Washington, D.C., who's all about creating meaningful, one-of-a-kind experiences for ambitious and discerning gentlemen. She truly knows how to live well, which shows in everything she does. Leijla is a motorcycle lover, a multilingual world traveler, and an insightful writer with a passion for crafting everything from captivating copy to soul-stirring poetry. In 2023, Leijla began business coaching for adult industry professionals, helping others thrive through her work at Elite and Unconventional. Leijla embodies the essence of adventure, connection, and luxury. Her mission is to empower the unconventional to embrace life with a deep sense of abundance, acceptance, and freedom. Whether she's riding through winding roads, exploring a new city, or building meaningful connections, Leijla's passion is creating experiences that leave a lasting impact and making life as extraordinary as it deserves to be. So Leijla, what's the why behind what you do? Was there like a personal reason that pushed you towards this path?
No, I found my why along the way. So I started in the adult industry 7 years ago. Or 8 years ago, I don't know how the math works out, in 2017. And I started it looking back in a very selfish way. I wanted the money. And when I looked online, I saw the women who had things, right? Like beautiful things and beautiful experiences. And that was a lot of how my first 2 years were. But then I took some time off. I had business coaching. I did a little bit of soul searching with some international travel. And when I came back to the industry in 2021 full time, I realized that what I do is service. It's a service industry, and really embracing it as a service, and not in a service of like a menu of options, but just a service to another human being and showing up to serve and seeing what I do as something really beautiful. I mean, the most basic thing that humans need is food and water and human connection, right? I think that's one of our basic human needs. And so in order to give that to someone else is a really beautiful thing that I can do with my life.
So you talked about the break you took from 2019 to 2021. Why did you take the break, and how did it impact what you do moving forward?
Yeah, I already went into how it impacted my life right now. The reason that I took a break, though, was in hindsight, I was a bit burnt out. I thought that I had enough money to live indefinitely. I had invested some money, but I wasn't quite fulfilled with the life that I was living because I was in my early 20s, and my first goal was just to be able to live relatively cheaply in, like sort of like quote unquote second world countries, right? Like you can live for $1,000, $2,000 a month easy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Tell me about it.
More. Oh yeah. You're in Thailand. So.
That's right.
So just wanting a bit more from life and wanting more possibilities and wanting the ability to like grow a new business or do exciting things with life and not have to be frugal. And so that was the reason that I came back, of wanting something more for my life and also wanting to experience more of life since I was only in my mid-20s. And yeah, I mean, the pandemic happened during my time off, which I'm actually really grateful for, that accidentally took time off, and then the pandemic happened 2 years later.
That was really good timing.
I'm really happy it happened the way it did. Yeah, just a lot of soul searching. I experienced things. I think I experienced more of what I wanted in life because I was in my mid going into my late 20s, and just realizing that there was more life to live and life to build, and not just trying to be cheap and get my career over, get the working portion of my life over as soon as possible, and realizing that I had never really created a mission or a passion or a purpose or done anything that I was proud of, and wanting to do that and make a change on the world. In addition to the business coaching that I had received.
Yeah. So how has that impacted your work going forward?
It impacts my work going forward because I seek a lot more excellence. I seek to run my business as a business. And based on the conversations I have with some other sex workers or the conversations I see online, it used to be quite shady. And I think people do questionable practices. And I mean, I understand why, but just coming at it in a more business perspective. And it's helped me thrive because I analyze things to make things better instead of treating it as this side hustle. I give it my full attention and allowing it to grow so much year over year. Like I made over $100,000 more this year compared to last year because I treat it as a business. So it has the ability to expand like a business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would think that most sex workers, and I let's talk about in-person sex workers, okay? I would think most in-person sex workers really don't look at it like a business, do they?
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of people who might want to, but they don't even know where to start. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why I started Elite Unconventional, because I realized that there isn't this rhetoric out there and wanting to let people know that is an option.
Yeah. That was actually going to be my next question. Are you spending a lot of your time coaching other sex workers?
I spend the majority of my time still with the gentlemen that I see because that pays the bills, that pays the mortgage, right? But I'm really excited by the people I've already had an impact on. And it is taking up more of my time, which I'm really happy about. I'm really grateful for because it has a meaningful impact, a different impact. It hits me in a different way, that because I am helping other women grow their businesses, I'm helping other women thrive in an industry where it can be difficult. I understand it's hard to get marketing advice or business advice, sales advice, just all these different things that vanilla, quote unquote, businesses have. And yeah, I consider us, even though we elect to be, most of us at least, part of the industry, we are still outcasts in a way, right? Discriminated against in a way. And empowering people who are discriminated is really meaningful to me.
Yeah, you've really become a mentor for these people, right?
Yeah, which is, I think, even better than being someone's point of connection sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's hard to explain just the joy I get from helping other people grow.
Sure. I can hear it in your voice. What's an average week like for you?
Man, that's hard. It would be easier to say what an average month is like.
Okay, go ahead.
Because, yeah, so I've been seeing one client. I have one client I've been seeing for a while, and we have a cadence of meeting around once every 2 months or so. But it's pretty typical that I'll have an extended date for one time a month or so, right? And then shorter dates, like maybe like dinner dates, overnight dates sprinkled throughout the month. And then to fill that in, I do my personal training on Thursdays, and I see my therapist on Tuesdays, and I talk to my social media strategist twice a month. And I have a schedule for both two of my coaching clients that I am coaching. I see on Mondays twice a month. So yeah, like those are the typical things in my week/month.
That all sounds rather corporate.
The social media strategist part.
Oh yeah, that, the personal trainer and the coaching, and yeah, it's it all sounds like that could be the itinerary of a corporate person.
Oh, I thought you meant it seemed boring. Sometimes my life does seem boring to me, but yeah, my friends always want to hear about it.
Of course they do. That's a good question that comes up. How do your friends that you've had since before you did sex work, how do they respond?
So that's interesting. I haven't actually told I call them legacy connections, and the really people who are only those people are like really, really long-standing friends and family. I haven't really made any connections pre-sex work that I still have now. But one decision that I made when I was living abroad, but I still had this identity of being a sex worker, is that I decided that I was primarily going to be out. I didn't like hiding and a bunch of half-truths and not telling people where I was going because I was doing a fly me to you date or something like that. So I don't really have people who knew me before I did sex work, but all the friends I have now are supportive and understanding of what I do. I think it's a requirement if I'm going to be open about it and they're going to accept me for who I am as a person.
So you haven't told your family?
No.
Okay. Do you plan to?
I've thought about it, but I haven't made any concrete plans yet.
Interesting. Because I think that's an issue with anyone who does anything that a family might object to, whether it be being a sex worker, whether it be that they're gay, whether it be whatnot, or whether they're out there committing crimes. Not that I equate the two, but I mean, it's very difficult for those people, it seems, to share that with their family. Yeah,
definitely. It's so many things. Yeah, things that are not necessarily clean cut within the law, even though I try my best to kind of operate in this gray area, right? Not do XYZ for this amount of money. But yeah, I think I am on the journey to allowing my family to see the more authentic me, because I always felt like the black sheep of my family growing up. And yeah, I actually think that's a pretty common experience for a lot of sex workers, to be honest. That's why we're such amazing people pleasers, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, I'm sure that goes along with it. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about yourself through this work?
The empowerment that I have found, just how strong I am and persistent I am. I didn't realize how persistent I was. And I didn't realize just my determination to figure something out.
Okay. So, I mean, how does that manifest itself?
I think there's the constant reiteration of ads, right? Even in my 7 years in the industry, which is far less compared to others in the industry, they've been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years. So they've seen ads evolve even more, but the evolution of social media, right, and having to figure that out, and because that is more and more essential to advertising and marketing. And yeah, another thing is the ads. Like Eros used to be my bread and butter. I spent the most money on Eros, and I remember back in like 2017 or 2018 when Trist came out and it was free and people were just trying out ads. Now it's 2025 and I don't advertise on Eros anymore. I haven't advertised on Eros in over a year, and a lot of people in the industry find it a waste of money, unless if you're in particular cities.
Oh, yeah. In other words, unless you're in San Francisco and you're advertising in San Francisco.
No, I mean more like very particular cities. Like I used to advertise on Eros in DC for a while, but I looked at the data and I couldn't remember the last time, because I track my where I get my clients. I couldn't remember the last time I had a new client from Eros, and I couldn't see in my Excel spreadsheet where I do my bookkeeping the last time I got a new client. So why was I spending the money every month? I've heard it's really just like New York, where it's really, really saturated and you need that extra boost. But even out in the West Coast, I hear that Private Delights dominates a lot.
Private Delights? I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, really?
No.
It's not my favorite site. I don't like the UI. It doesn't feel as high end as Eros or Trist, but it does really well in like LA, San Francisco, it seems, and maybe like Arizona.
Okay. So how's the industry changed in the 7 years since you started?
I think the people themselves have changed. It's been interesting to see people retire out of the industry or change careers sort of within the industry, like a really big escort I used to follow is not doing that anymore and doesn't really have a whole lot of online presence in like the sex worker world anymore. It seems I don't really see much content from her. So people doing that. And I also see an interesting trend in the industry that when I was a little baby, so sex worker back in like 2017, 2018, it used to be all about like the high end and the glam and being perceived as like really well off, like having Cartier bags and Louis Vuitton bags, like all the designer stuff.
Flying private planes, all that.
Yeah. And not that that doesn't exist still, but I'm seeing a lot more personal touches and more unique branding and a lot more girl next door sort of thing, even if it's high-end girl next door, which I suppose I could consider myself high-end girl next door. There's a lot more personality beyond just the, like the diamonds and the glitter.
So what was the first time that you thought you might get into this line of work, and how did it come about?
That's an interesting story. I really didn't consider it until somebody already paid me for my time. So I was on a dating app back in 2017, and it was just like looking for somebody, and I'm an upfront person. So I told somebody, hey, you're not the right person for me. I don't think I want to meet up with you. And then he asked, hey, can I pay you to give you a massage? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I considered it. And then we got together and I had these rules of like, oh, like, you're allowed to do this. Like, he wanted also like kind of wanted sensuality too, but like no kissing above the neck and no like this and this and this. And so that got my wheels turning. So I really didn't consider it until somebody had already approached
So he
me,
did
essentially.
it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He ended up leaving before like he finished the massage. I think he just felt a bit awkward because of the rules I had. But that was the first time.
And then you started doing some research, right?
Yeah. Took some photos, put up an ad on Eros. Yeah.
Wild. And what would you do if your family all of a sudden, since you are forward facing, all of a sudden saw you on social media or somebody told them? How would you react to that?
Wow. I'm actually not face out anymore. So that's a transition I made within the last few months. Yeah.
Okay. So with your ads, you just don't show your face?
Right. Yeah. With my ads, I took my face down from my social media and my website. It is still on my email list, but yeah, with the new presidential administration, I didn't feel comfortable with having my face out there anymore.
Tell me about it. There's a lot of things. To your question. There's a lot of things a lot of people aren't comfortable with anymore, like living. But we won't get into that. We won't get too political this time. Yeah, I don't need to get political. And I didn't want to say to not get political. But I need to feel comfortable at the end of the day. And I didn't feel, I felt way too vulnerable. So I changed something. Yeah. We're recording this in April. It's going to run in June. And just today, the latest from the genius was that he actually had the audacity to talk about how the Nazis were kind to the Jews. Anyway, look it up. It's there. Anyway, so just follow my social media. Anyway, what is your philosophy for being successful in the adult industry today?
One of the biggest things that I push for my coaching or like my mentees is to have a unique brand, because there are so many beautiful women out there. You need to have a personality. You need to have something more than tits and ass. You need to just have something special. And in order to do that, you need to know your target audience. You need to understand how to do that, how to offer something different that other people aren't. And you don't need to necessarily be unique. I think that's one reason why we came away from everybody being this like Hermes, Louis Vuitton, whatever girl, is because it got boring and everybody was the same.
Yeah, pretty amazing that what you see on social media, there's so many clones. It's surprising to me, and they're all saying the same thing too. It's funny, especially the OnlyFans girls that the agencies find that particular week. This is a good thing to say. So, and a lot of those girls are doing in-person sex work as well. So.
Oh, I see. The reason I would say that is because I've been approached by one of those agencies and they treat you like everybody else, but I didn't end up really signing with them long term. When I did post content on OnlyFans, I had someone to try to market my OnlyFans, and I didn't like the way they did my branding. And I'm so particular about my branding, and I'm so particular about how I represent myself that I couldn't go through with it. I hired them for 1 month.
Yeah, a lot of these agencies are lazy, and a vast majority are. And they just come up with this image, and they try to put it on every single model. That's kind of
that sort of answers your question then of why they're all the same.
No, I know. I certainly know. I'm very familiar with the whole OnlyFans space. We have another site, OnlyFansAgencyBroker.com, so we deal in that world a lot. What's the foundation of a good relationship with a client?
Man, I think at the end of the day, it seems really corny, but at the end of the day, you need to have trust. between an escort and a client. Any relationship needs trust, whether it's family, friends, or escort client. Like, it's a business relationship. You need to make sure that you both feel safe. And yeah, the client needs to trust that you're going to be safe and you're going to do what you need and you're going to be discreet. And I need to trust that they're a safe person and I'm not going to be in physical danger. I think that's, of course, like one of the most fundamental things of meeting with somebody. And also just treating them as a unique person. I think not trying to have this experience that you put all your clients into of like, oh, like this is how the date is going to go.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people do that. But they've got kind of a format and they use it for everybody.
I think that works if you want to do like very quick in-person sex work, right? If like half hours, when people choose to do that, I think that's the best way. And not everybody wants that personal touch. But if you do want more extended dates, you need to give that personal touch.
Mm-hmm. How long are your normal dates?
It varies. I rarely do like 1 or 2 hours anymore. I would say more typical is dinner dates, like 4-hour dates or overnight dates. I talked a little bit about the client I see for like 5 days every 2 months. So yeah, it just keeps getting longer as I get older.
Well, I think you're enjoying yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm enjoying myself way more now than I was when I was, 24, 23 when I started.
What's the mindset that helps you do that?
Enjoy the longer dates.
Yeah.
Connecting with them. Yeah. And going back to that service mindset and creating this experience for them and leaving my problems at the door and engaging with this human being and not trying to get to a particular end, right? Not being like, oh, like, well, I need to get him to climax, but just like get them to enjoy. How do I get them to enjoy their time with me? And yeah, a lot of them are going to climax, but that's not the push. I don't want to take 5 minutes and then it's rushed. And even though they've done it, they don't feel good about it.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, especially when they're spending a lot of money.
Yeah. And what are you doing for the other 3.5 hours?
Exactly. 3 hours and 55 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Knowing many men. What's the most rewarding part of what you do, and what are some of the more challenging parts?
The most rewarding part of what I do, regardless if it's for the people I coach or the gentlemen I see, is knowing that I am making a positive impact on another person's life, knowing that I'm touching them, not just, physically, but yeah, I'm like, this sounds really corny, but touching their soul, impacting their life in a positive way and making their life better because of it.
Nice. Very nice. What are some of the more challenging parts?
Challenging parts, certainly balancing everything in my life because running 2 businesses, trying to maintain a personal life with lots of travel. Yeah. And like doing everything myself, right? So like, my old household things, that's hard. And also getting so much social time, giving so much of my social energy, even though I love what I do, balancing that out with making sure that I have time to recharge and spend social energy with the people in my personal life.
Okay. Speaking of personal life, are you able to have a normal relationship, or are you not there yet?
What I tell my clients is I don't talk about my personal relationships, my personal romantic relationships.
Okay. We won't talk about it then. Has this work caused any issues with those?
Yeah, of course. Like me being gone, right? If you pay for 5 days with me, yeah, I'm going to take an hour or so, whatever I need each day for myself. I don't think it's reasonable for people to spend 24 hours like back to back to back. But at the same time, that is very disconnecting, right? So how do you stay connected to someone when they're away so often? And that's just one client. I have other clients. Yeah. And then I think comparison, a lot of people suffer from comparison.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. They absolutely do. So how do you navigate your personal boundaries?
Learning how to stand up for myself in a way that is assured, but not overly aggressive. Yeah, no, I think first and foremost, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what you want and don't want. And I think that also goes deeper into tuning into yourself. I think women don't tune into themselves because they've been told not to, because they've been told they're overly emotional, and so they don't trust their gut instincts. And so first and foremost, learning how to trust my gut instincts, because most of the time they're right. When something makes my tummy not feel right, most of the time I shouldn't go forward with it, whatever it is. And so learning to listen to that.
Mm-hmm. Does your gut ever tell you not to go with a client?
When I am communicating with some clients over email, yeah. But I've never made a date with a client that made me question, or like make my gut said, oh, this isn't quite right.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Very grateful I have that opportunity, because not everyone has the ability to turn down that money.
Yes, absolutely. And you should turn it down if you're not comfortable. There's no two ways about it. And like you said, I think a lot of people don't do that, and that's very unfortunate. Adventure is one of your brand values. Now, what's the boldest and most unexpected adventure you've ever taken personally or professionally?
Oh man, it's a debate between the two. So, of course, motorcycling, right? And I don't just ride a motorcycle, I go to track days. So that means I go as fast as I can around the tracks. So that's a big one. And then I planned a trip to Paris, France, because I really needed to get away and I wanted to see my friends in Europe. I have 2 friends who live in Europe. And so I planned a trip to Paris with like less than 2 weeks notice, over like the beginning of the Olympics last year.
Can't imagine your hotel bill was much, or were you staying with friends?
It was surprisingly low, like the Airbnb, because everybody put their places on Airbnb. The Airbnb was a really good price.
Good. Very good. Do you have any habits, rituals, or routines that keep you grounded and motivated?
I do journaling in the morning, and that's really important to me. So being grateful is one of the things that I do every morning. So it might be anything from my friends to an experience I had, or like coffee, or like having refrigeration, things like that, right? And just remaining grateful for the things I have in my life keeps me really grounded. And then I go through these phrases I've created for myself, or I found along the way, I found over the few years, reminding me of the person I want to be. So I like write them down. It's like the same phrase every day, but it's just realigning me with who I want to be and what I want to focus on.
Very good. How do you balance being ambitious and driven with taking time to relax and recharge?
The biggest thing is planning, because the busier I've been, the more essential it is to plan out vacations. So making sure that I plan vacations in advance, and even farther in advance, the farther in advance my work gets planned out. And again, listening to my body, it's really amazing how transformative it's been to just learn to listen to my body and learn to listen what I need. Like when I'm feeling burnt out, I take a step back and I don't push as hard. And I used to worry before I had a balance that, oh, like my ambition isn't going to come back. I was worried that I wouldn't feel that passion again. But then I took a chance and I took a step back. And then when I was ready, I was hungry. I was like, all right, like I'm ready to do something now. And now I know that hunger and that drive is going to come back when I am properly recharged, when I have taken some time to take care of myself and make sure that I'm rested and just all the things.
So as someone who values freedom, how do you create space for yourself?
The motorcycle is amazing for that. That is such a freeing experience. Not the crazy like Thailand experience that I've heard of, right? Like that's maybe a little bit too free based on what I've heard.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's crazy over there. But I'm not going to judge. I haven't.
It's what you make of it.
And then freedom. My therapist actually recommended something recently. She recommended that because I have so many things in my schedule, I schedule unscheduled time for myself every day and then every week. So it's like an hour I don't have to schedule anything. Or like these 4 hours, I get to do whatever I want.
That's awesome. That's a great idea. I think for everyone who has a busy schedule, just to schedule some time for yourself. That's fantastic.
But the key is that you're not allowed to like schedule time with friends or like schedule this or whatever. It has to be like, this is unscheduled time and I get to do whatever my heart desires in that
me time. Yeah, it's me time.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not to be cliche, but that's a little cliche. Okay. What advice would you give someone craving more freedom in their own life, but who doesn't know how to start?
Man, that's a hard question to answer. I think they need to tune into themselves. I think that we oftentimes push down things we don't want to hear or we don't think are possible or for whatever the reason is. And I think we know what we want. We just need to be brave enough to listen to it. So tune into the bravery of whatever you want and what you think is going to make you feel free. Like I was obsessed motorcycles. Like I knew I wanted a motorcycle from a young age. Like it was like teens or earlier, right? But I didn't get one until I was like 27 or 28. But I knew it and I wish I had done it sooner. And so I think like just do what you think is going to make you happy, and it probably is. Like, and I also like learned to sew. And I didn't sew for like over a decade because I didn't like stay in one place in one for enough time to have a sewing machine, but then I loved it and I loved the creativity and I knew that I wanted to do it even though I didn't really have any experience doing it. So just, tune into yourself and allow yourself that freedom because you actually know what you want. You just have to allow yourself the freedom to actually do it.
Nice. What would you like to say to people who don't want you to speak about your experiences as a sex worker?
I would want to know why they don't want me to speak about my experience. And I would want to know what's wrong with speaking about my experience. Yeah, I'm not trying to glorify my experience. I'm just trying to represent who I am and be myself and be authentic.
Yeah, no, that's good. There's a lot of negative Nellies out there when it comes to our industry, let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They surround the president in the White House, unfortunately. So, which is funny because he's not at all negative about it. But that's another story altogether.
That's confusing.
Yes, Mr. Sexual Harassment, Mr. Sexual Assault. Anyway, I digress. Okay. Where do you want to take your work or life in the next few years? So what's the next big vision for you?
Well, my goal for the Leijla Foss side, my companionship side, is that I'm aiming to spend more time with fewer people. So I know like trying to be more exclusive can sound a bit pretentious, but essentially that I just want to make a bigger impact on fewer people's lives. So more depth instead of breadth. And then in the Elite and Unconventional side, I'm still figuring out, but I want to create more programs to make coaching and mentorship and business advice for women and other people in the adult industry. I want to make it more accessible. So group programs, and I'd love to have a way to have essentially like scholarship programs. So like people who wouldn't necessarily be able to afford it can get it, right? Because survival sex workers exist, they can't afford business coaching that could help raise them out of survival sex work into if they decide to continue doing it or not, right? And I hope that is one thing that I'm able to do. in the next, I mean, hopefully it's within 5 years, but in the next up to 10 years.
How long do you want to do in-person sex work?
I want to do it until I don't want to do it anymore. So I don't necessarily have a date.
Yeah.
I want to become financially independent, like for real, with in 10 years. So when I'm 40, and then I can truly decide what I want to do, what I want to work on, and finances are not necessarily going to be a deciding factor for what I work on. I can just truly tune into what I'm passionate about doing.
Okay. If you could leave one mark, big or small, on the world, what do you think that would be?
I want to be part of the movement that helps decriminalize sex work or decriminalize escorting in the United States.
Yeah. It shouldn't be against the law. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Well, you're familiar with the organization Decriminalize Sex Work, right?
I know there are lots of organizations out there. I haven't looked too much into that yet myself because I'm still working on my own things. But I guess I would love to volunteer more. You know, time is a factor in that. And then I guess my hope is that, yeah, I'll become more of a thought leader in my industry, and also just the changing of public perception that, oh, this is the way women do it. This is the way it's always done. It's shady or whatever. I want to change that public perception to sex work is work. A part of sex work being work is that it's a legitimate business. We're legitimate business people. And that's one way I hope to influence it. I don't know if I'll end up getting associated with any organizations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Woodhull Freedom Foundation's another one that is really, really good. And they spend a lot of time in court about these issues. So that's
I'm sure you get to talk to so many interesting people and people with all these passions and missions.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love this podcast. For the main reason I love this podcast is the views of the people I talk to so much align with what I believe. And there's nothing in the world that's wrong with sex work. Sex work has been around, as they say, the longest profession. It's been around forever, and it helps people. It doesn't hurt people. Obviously, I'm not for sex trafficking, but a very small amount of sex work is sex trafficking, unlike what the right will make you believe. So anyway, we could go on for hours about that. But yes, I do love this. So what's a book, movie, or podcast, besides this one, that changed the way you think?
The book that has changed my life, and it's my favorite book, I've read it the most, it's called The Blood of Flowers. And it's not a well-known book. I got it when I was, I think, like 17 or 18. I don't even know how it was at my like school fair, you know, those like book fairs, because it was about this young woman who has to go live with her uncle in like the 1400s, Iran or something like that. And then she ends up essentially signing this like marriage contract, but it's a temporary marriage contract with this like rich, like horse tradesman or whatever, right? So he's very wealthy. It's essentially like old time prostitution or like old time escorting. And it's so weird because I never thought that I would be here. And this whole,
very,
God. Very meta. Yeah. And just her tenacity to know what she wanted and her determination to go through hard things and be what she wanted and express herself in artistic ways. And the way the book is written, it's beautiful and poetic and sensual. And yeah, like I had never read anything like that when I was 17 or 18, right? And yeah, just her determination to not listen to the people around her, especially, right, like her uncle, her aunt, her mom, to tell her what she should do, right, like stay in this sort of false marriage, or should she listen to her gut and what she thinks she should do. And well, I don't want to spoil it, but I'll spoil it. She ends up essentially like starting her own small business, knotting rugs, and being successful, like relatively, successful on her own. And she took a chance, and yeah, it was beautiful.
Fantastic. Well, Leijla, I'd like to thank you for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you. My broker tip today is part 1 on how to buy a site. The first question to ask yourself is, what kind of site would you like to buy? Would you like a tube site, a cam site, a dating site, a membership site, a social media site, or something else? If you want to buy a membership site, what type of site do you want and in what niche? There are literally hundreds of niches and many sub-niches. For instance, let's say you want to buy a gay site. Under gay, there's bears or mature, bareback, Asian, Latino, amateur, bi, black, Euro, and fetish, along with many fetishes under that classification. Plus, there's hardcore, jocks, porn stars, solo, trans, twinks, and uniforms. Straight has even more sub-niches. I can't tell you how many people contact me and just say, I want to buy a site or I want to buy a pay site. I need more information than that. How you make this decision should be based on these factors. What interests you? What you enjoy should definitely play a part in what you buy. If you like men and want to make money on a straight site, that's probably a really bad idea. Same thing if you're straight and want to buy a gay site. So what you like plays a part. What's your budget? This is something you need to establish at the very beginning. Not only do you need to know what it is you're working with, but some classifications of sites are more expensive than others. For instance, if you want a cam site with any traffic or revenue at all, you're going to need a lot of money. In fact, to buy any established and successful site will be somewhat expensive. If you buy a site that's pretty much just a platform without traffic or sales, you're going to need a huge investment to build it up. In that case, it might actually be as good or better just to start your own site. That way you get exactly what it is you're looking for. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week we'll be speaking with Andrew Rivera of Confirmo. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Leijla Foss. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.